Oh, where's our halfway set up here now?
Yeah, we were so set up.
We were all ready. We're getting there.
Not how you start. How you end.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to another edition of Tackle Shop Live. Live Green Fishing Machine. How are you, buddy? Tim McSee. Leighton Graves in the house.
The next day you called me up. You told me,
yeah, baby. Jim Saban, how are you? Matthew. What's up, Matthew?
Well,
Johnny Kopp, Scott Choate.
Please tell me your love is real.
And all you guys just checking in again. Alvin Valentine, how are you, Alvin? Mark, how are you, Marky? Jeff Santangelo. Good to see you, Jeff. Thanks for coming down the other day. It was nice seeing you. Right on, buddy. Thank you. Mike Hayer, how are you, buddy? Keith Howard. What's up, Keith? Hope you've been out there wrecking them. Yeah, buddy. Joseph Cascarino. Robert Mills. Ronald Kennard, how are you, buddy?
It's not a funny game. You know just what I feel.
Man, oh man, we got a great show for you tonight. Absolutely. Good to see everybody stopping in for another night and another edition of Tackle Shop Live. We come at you every Thursday night at 7 o'clock. And we talk tackle, we talk fishing, we talk technique, we talk whatever we have to do to keep you guys interested. Sometimes we don't know where we go with it. But anyway, thanks so much, you guys, all the OGs for stopping in. Lots of you guys always do every week, and we appreciate that very much. Man, we've been thinking about some stuff over the last week, man, and it's been like, you start thinking about how we all got here. What was it that got us here? So you start thinking back, and you think about the Bassmasters, back in the day when you had the big names, the Ricky Cluns, the KVDs, the Paul Elias was my favorite, man, back in 1982 when he won the Classic. Man, we're just excited about that. Tom Mann. I mean, these are big names. These are guys who got us into fishing. Bob Cobb. I mean, the best commentator that you'll ever hear. The Bassmaster, show on Sundays. I mean, how many guys watched that? And how many of us guys watched it and just dreamed about all the fishing and the bass and tournament fishing and what it was all about. Unbelievable. Jimmy Houston, Roland Martin. I mean, these are people who iconic people who we all learned about. We all learned off of these guys. We all listened to them. They were all our heroes. Ray Scott started this whole thing in 1967 when he started competitive bass fishing. I think it was in 1972 he took on all these big companies about polluting the water and stuff, and he started that whole thing. He started catch and release, catching fish and releasing it. All these great things come out of bass. Great stuff. Even Roland Martin, for God's sakes. I mean, he's the greatest American fisherman. He'll go anywhere. George knows the words to all this song. I mean, it's the greatest show ever. We watched it every Sunday we watched the Bassmasters, we watched Roland Martin, we watched all those shows, and we were pumped up and we were driven. We became driven people to do what we are doing today, and and all that stuff. I mean, we got lots of great things with Bassmasters.
Mike, hold on one
Yeah.
second here. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah, here it is, right here. Sundays. I mean, come on. Bob Cobb jumps on there.
That's right.
Tells you about what's going on for the show. It's iconic. I know you guys were like, some of the guys know all about it. Some of you guys were too young for that age, but it was the greatest thing ever for me. I mean, I would kill somebody if I missed the Bassmasters TV show, or better yet, Roland Martin. I had to watch it. I had to learn from these guys. I loved it. So many good things come out of Bassmasters. It's an evolving sport. It's an evolving company. It has some ups, has some downs, but all in all, Ranger boats. I mean, how many? Nick, did you ever grow up wanting a Ranger boat?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that was the boat we were going to buy.
That was the whole deal.
It was everything about Ranger boats, and
Had one.
yeah, had a Ranger boat. I mean, I remember the day George got his Ranger boat. We were so jacked up. I can't even tell you the feeling. It wasn't even my boat, but I felt like it was mine. I felt like it was the greatest thing ever. George got this.
You were on a team.
I was on a team, man. I was team Acord at the time, and he got this Ranger boat. It was the greatest freaking thing in the world. And it was like we finally arrived. We finally arrived. It was a sweet boat too.
That was a
461 VS.
That was a Ferrari.
It was a great boat.
A 20-footer?
No.
19.
I guess it would have been about right around 19,
Yeah.
18 and a half.
That was
19.
a good size
I
boat.
think it was 18'6", and it had a VS, which made it act like a 19-footer. That was a big boat back then.
Yeah, but where do we take it? We took it on 29-foot boat water.
Yeah, that thing went
And
everywhere.
you didn't think twice.
No,
Hell no.
no way, man. We had
Can't
to run.
sink them.
We had to make the run to win the tourney.
You can't sink them.
We were fishing club tournaments with 13 boats, and we were running hundreds of miles, man. We were making the run. We were KVD sitting in the boat. We were Roland Martin. We were Jimmy Houston. We were all these guys that we watched.
Well, see, and that's what you're saying is really cool because, George and I were looking at a picture the other day as I was brought up my phone, and this guy was on this boat with this cool outfit that was probably what, George? Mid-'80s, late 80s?
Yeah, it was like 81, 82.
Yeah, and he was all decked out. And at that time, George was like, man, I seen a guy one time going through this expo, and I just wanted to be like that guy.
I seen a whole bass club like that.
Yeah,
It's awesome. And all these guys at that point were larger than life in the sport.
yeah,
And when you went to even a club tournament,
yeah,
you were them for the moment.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's
That was Basil Bacon.
Is that what it was?
yeah.
Nice.
I mean,
And
that-
cool names too.
Oh, absolutely. And then, as time went on, Dewey Kendrick. Guess what Ray Scott would always say? Mark him, Dewey.
That's right.
I mean, we all say it. Mark it, Dewey. It's class. I mean, this is what bass fishing to me and what Bassmasters to me is all about, and it's why we're who we are right today is because of Bassmasters, the Bassmasters show, idolizing all these people, waking up, can't even sleep the night before a club tournament with 6-8
you
boats in
couldn't-
it, man.
couldn't
You
take it.
can't even sleep. You're so freaking excited. Got your plan all jacked up. You're going out. And whatever the weather was. I remember fishing a tournament down on the Sassafras River. It rained buckets for 8 straight hours, and the bilge pumps had to kick on every 5 minutes and pump out water for 6 or 7 minutes before they'd stop, and then another 5 minutes it would come back on and pump out water for 6 or 7 minutes. And we didn't care. We were fishing a tournament, man. We weren't canceling. You didn't cancel things back
Didn't
then.
matter.
You didn't matter. Snowstorms. I've been in them. I was so excited to go fishing. I couldn't even sleep at night. And all because of Bassmaster. All because of you know, the whole.
And another cool thing is that we don't even talk about anymore, that we all looked forward to every month. What was it?
The Bassmaster magazine.
That's right.
I mean, I have it written down here, the Bassmaster magazine, as you know, my brother and I, when we were young, you know, we had stacks of these things, and we would, you know, my brother literally analyzed every single page like 3 times in a month.
Did you file it? So George, we didn't have internet, all this stuff that we have now.
Yeah. Did
you file what happened on certain bodies of water in these magazines or no?
No, it was all up here.
we would read these magazines.
I still
man.
have them all.
Yeah, he has a whole
Nice.
pile.
I have them all.
He has a freaking
awesome.
pile of them things, and
I'll tell you what else. What's really fucking cool. I'll tell you what's really cool.
check it there, bro.
Is being in it.
Yeah.
Oh, you were in the magazine
Multiple times. That's pretty cool.
Well, all right. So tell us a couple what reasons why you were in it.
Well, when I fished a classic in '95, my press observer was a guy by the name of Bruce Ingram. And Bruce Ingram was a freelance writer out of Virginia. So, you know, as freelance writers need to do, they need to write articles. And, you know, when you write a lot, you're always looking for a new angle on something. I mean, there's only so much stuff to write about. So, you know, whenever he would do a smallmouth fishing article, he would always call me for, you know, a portion of that article. So, like, you know, it was like, and it was really funny because I saw something on Facebook the other day for an angler who was, and I don't know the guy, but apparently he's quite the co-angler. And the name of the article was, he was showing whoever put the article on Facebook about him. They had the cover of Bassmaster magazine, and it was like five things from the smallmouth masters or something like that. And I saw the picture of the magazine. I'm like, yeah, I was lucky enough to be in that article. So it's pretty cool when you're a complete mainline,
yeah,
you know, junkie,
big time.
And you make an article or two.
He'd read those magazines constantly. I mean, he constantly.
Well, it was pre-internet. We had very little.
We didn't have anything.
You know, we had very little. Like,
we had Sundays, you know, for the shows, and then the rest of the time it was a magazine.
You had very little access to, you know, up-to-date knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, trends.
I was in the magazine, Nick.
What were you in for?
I was in.
George's brother, Mike.
Yeah, I was in. I was in. I had a very integral part in that magazine. You ever see the thing where they put the names into the people who win?
Nice. Now, do you have it saved though?
No. No. Like, I didn't even know I won. I didn't even know I won anything. You know, this little box comes in the mail, you know, it's like, what do we win? I won like a crankbait or something like that, you know?
Cool.
Yeah, I was in.
Cool.
I was published.
Cool.
I was published. I was a published person.
Nice.
Bassmaster.
Wait a minute. So you were in because you won a giveaway?
Yeah, there was a little.
That's not what I thought you were going to talk about.
Oh, no.
You had to be in for your win.
I was, but it wasn't in the Bassmaster magazines and Bass and Times.
Oh,
which, by the way,
Bass Times,
way better than the Bassmaster.
I love
magazine.
Bass Times.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be, but in the Bassmaster magazine there was a little thing there. They, you know, this month's winners, you know, was a little box down there, and sure enough, my name was poked right in there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and times change, obviously, but I think I joined Bass in 1982 because that was when I joined my first club, and you had to join Bass. It was before it was a split, you know.
Yeah, it was Bass.
It was Bass.
Period.
If you fished Bass.
Yeah.
And so I was a member since 82. So I got Bassmaster magazine. And then when they started Bass Times, I signed up for that. I got Bass Times. And it wasn't until 4 or 5 years ago that I let those subscriptions lapse. No, reflection on Bass, but it's the internet. I mean, it's why the print industry is struggling so hard.
It's just a fact.
It is what it is. I mean, by the time it comes out in either of those magazines,
you already know all about it.
It's gone.
You read like 300 different things about it.
I mean, we got our back in the old days, we got our techniques from the magazine and from Bass Times. It was always a West Coast to East Coast progression and a Southeast to Northeast progression. That was the way techniques, tips, and tactics traveled. That was the migration route of knowledge. And you got it from Bassmaster. You got it from seminar speakers at boat shows.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, guys, and I'm asking both of you this question. So obviously with tournaments we watch now, you see everything. Yet information is at your fingertips. But looking back at the magazines and back then, what is a moment where you either read or seen and you're like, it changed a little bit how you fished or how you looked at things differently?
For me?
Yep.
Everything. It was everything. Texas rigged worms, flipping a jig, reading articles about Denny Brower flipping. I mean, we would never, ever know anything about that. All of our bass fishing techniques that we did, picking up a baitcaster, trying to figure it out, everything was driven from that magazine. Everything. Texas rigging, colors, flipping, pitching, Carolina rigging. I remember the Carolina rig, we took the diagram right out of the book and tied it up right out of the magazine. It was that's how you learn how to fish. I mean, that it was what it was.
Offshore fishing.
Yeah. Really.
Triangulation.
They would write articles and then the people would illustrate it. They'd draw and illustrate and they'd put, draw the illustrations and you would kind of visualize it in your head. And that's how George and I have become, the people that we became, because of the magazine. And so there's so much positive stuff comes out of the Bassmasters and the Bassmaster Classic. I mean, iconic tournament, the tournament of all tournaments, the one that everybody wants to fish, the one that everybody wants to go to, Bassmasters. All that kind of stuff. I mean, and in local and in recent times, great people. Dave Mercer, great human being, great guy to talk to.
I wouldn't necessarily associate him with the magazine.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about Bass.
Oh,
I'm talking about Bass.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about now moving forward into where we're at now. Mark Zona, Dave Mercer, Brandon Palaniuk. These are all relatively newer within the last 10 years, 15 years. These guys came up through. But all the people, you look back at the people who fished and who aren't fishing anymore. I mean, all these names, you can look back through and all the experiences and all the positiveness that comes out of all that tournament fishing.
It's almost like where did they go now or something?
Yeah,
like that.
there was a lot of people that did it that were big bass names, who either retired, right, or just not fishing anymore, for whatever reasons. But I guess the opening tonight was about the positives of Bassmasters, the positives of what, let's face it, you guys wouldn't be watching the show if it wasn't for the Bassmasters.
Well,
you wouldn't be doing a lot of the things that you're doing. You wouldn't be even out in the bass boat if it wasn't for the Bassmasters. It's all positive stuff, and it goes ups and downs, and we've had downs before. We've had terrible downs in the Bassmaster, and then it bounces back and
well, you have change.
Yeah. So it's all good. It's all cool stuff. I thought I'd bring up some cool names.
With that positive, one
of
the things I think is really cool, because knowing you guys and knowing how much you guys love Bassmasters and the history you guys have, How has Bassmasters over the start of the shop back in what 80? It was 80,
1989.
89. How has Bassmasters from that moment impacted the shop?
I mean, we are honestly, our store is because of Bassmasters, bass fishing, and bass fishing is because of the Bassmasters. Ray Scott. When you say that, George, no other reason. Absolutely no other reason.
Well, I mean, the real genesis for our store was the fact that you and I had no place close to buy tackle.
Yeah, yeah.
And we thought, well, what? I mean, there's thousands of other fishermen, in this region that feel the same way.
Yeah.
Now their interests in bass fishing were because of Bassmaster to some extent. Our interests, we were bass heads.
Yeah.
And we also liked other forms of fishing, but our real genesis was there's nothing.
Yeah.
And when we started, there was nothing. I mean, nothing. So, I mean, the market was kind of begging for somebody to fill that void. And, we gave it a shot.
Yeah. And it goes all the way back to that, though. It goes back to the Bassmasters influencing us, making us want to tournament fish, making us want to fish bass. And when we were younger, we didn't tournament fish, but we traveled like all over the place fishing lakes that we read about in the magazine, like Santee Cooper, Tellico Lake down in Tennessee, Lake Douglas in Tennessee. We fished a lot of stuff in Tennessee. We fished a couple lakes in North Carolina, all reading the magazines and planning a trip with my dad. And my dad would take George and I for like 7, 8, 9, 10 days. We'd go out camping in a tent.
That's pretty cool.
And we would do these trips and we'd read about them in the magazines, learn all about the lake, do all this research, get our maps out and do map study. And we would go to these lakes and fish these lakes. And like, you were when you were out there, you were fishing a Bassmaster tournament. It was cool. It was cool as hell. So that was really cool. My dad doing that for us and instilling all that bass fishing in us, and then when we got a little older and we were able to, we joined clubs and started club fishing. And it wasn't until later though, we were in Georgia was maybe 17, I think, or 18. I was, my 20, I started after him. So I was like 20, 21 when I started bass tournament fishing. And, but it all stemmed from it, and so there's a lot of great stuff out there, and, the classic is still the classic. And
with that, Mike, with the classic,
yeah,
the cool thing too about Bassmasters and still today, is, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that you qualified in the Bassmaster Classic, George, you can still do that today.
Oh yeah,
and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they have like there's a couple spots there for one's the weekend team guys can travel all the way through their thing, and which is huge. Go to all this a championship, and then they go fish a thing, and then they get to split up, and then one of them guys makes the classic,
and that could be life changing.
Absolutely,
that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and the high schoolers or the college, is it high schoolers or college get the classic?
One college angler.
Yeah, one college angler gets to go, and which is cool. And then a federation. There's always the two federation people who make the classic, and that's how Georgia got into it. So it is life changing. So it's a big deal. So it's a lot of positive stuff, with Bassmasters, and with any great organization, you're gonna have ups and downs, and you just wait. Things always comes right back. And play that song again, Nick. It always comes back to this right here, man. Always, always, always comes back to one thing every time.
That's Bob Cobb
getting ready to talk in there. I mean, every time it comes back to that one song that you guys could put in your head and say, this is the Bassmasters.
So that was on
that
a
I'm
Sunday,
Bob Cobb.
right?
On a Sunday.
So on a Sunday, there was a bunch of different shows.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Hank Parker, Roland Martin.
Yeah.
Now, trivia. And I hope you guys know a little background on this individual.
Yeah.
There was another individual who always wore a same hat.
Yeah.
Who was he and what was his background?
Yeah. So his name was Orlando Wilson.
That's right.
Yep. His television show was Fishing with Orlando Wilson.
Orlando Wilson Fishing
Yeah.
Show.
Orlando Wilson Fishing Show.
Now, was he a Bassmaster too?
Yeah. He fished the Bassmasters. Yep. Absolutely.
I always remember him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Orlando Wilson. Yeah.
He wore an Atlanta Braves hat.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's why we usually don't talk about him.
That's great.
Yeah, Jimmy Houston, all those guys. You had to watch all those shows. I mean, yeah, Orlando Wilson. He was great. I didn't like his show as much as I did Roland Martin's.
No, but it was just cool.
Yeah.
That they were all.
I know.
you had to watch every show.
Oh, I watched every single one of them. And then what was cool about it was all like right before fishing, right before the fishing season. It
Gets
was
you
like,
all pumped up.
oh, we jacked up, man. It was raining, snowing outside, horrible. We'd be sitting in front of TV watching all the shows. You know, it was great, man. It was just great.
And they all gave you ideas for baits you needed and ideas.
It was so hold your hats on, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. Hold your hats on. It's all going to get better, guaranteed. Just remember that song that Nick played. That'll make you happy again. All right,
Get better from what?
get better from all the negativity that's out there. You know, I don't. You know, it's just stupid. It's stupid negativity. It's like ups and downs, ebbs and flows. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. But guess what? Tide always comes back in again.
Well, the negativity is more prevalent because of the internet.
Yeah, it's easier to be negative.
Yeah.
It's way easier to be negative.
The keyboard warriors
Yeah,
say stupid shit.
it's just what happens. You know,
It's too easy.
it is easy.
Yep.
So, you know, all the stuff that's happening, it'll ebb, it'll flow, things will work out, it flushes out, you know, it's just the way it is. But you know, just remember all that stuff we talked about tonight, all those people, all that great humor, all that great stuff that happened to put us where we are today. Put us why we're doing what we do, why we love it, why we can't sleep at night before our 8-boat club tournament. That is why we do this. We're excited. We love the sport. We love catching bass. We love going after bass. We love the whole thing about it. And if you lose that, then it's time to maybe move on to something else. And there's plenty of other things to do. But I haven't lost it. Have you?
No.
I still can't sleep at night thinking. I can't sleep right now. Me and Nick are going to fish a tournament on Sunday, a couple of days away. I can't even.
Yeah, I don't even think I'm going to sleep till then.
I can't even sleep right now. All I've been doing is thinking about it. Nick and I are going to fish this tournament, and I can't even stand it. Now they're talking about canceling it. We're kind of pissed off about the whole thing, you know.
We're going to have a 1-boat tournament then.
We're going to go somewhere and turn and fish, even if it was like we did last weekend when we went to the river and fished our little Bubba scale tournament with the guys. So, you know, I love it. It's fun. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right. Got a nice crowd here tonight. And I appreciate everybody for stopping in. This is Tackle Shop Live. We do this every Thursday night at 7:00. My name is Mike Acord. This is George Acord. Behind the camera is cameraman Nick. And one other thing, Nick, that we're doing coming up here, starting every year we do the Summer Slam tournament from Susquehanna Fishing Tackle and sfttackle.com. And the Summer Slam tournament is once again going to happen. We're so excited about it. And that is May the 18th. All you guys that are wondering about our tournament will have to wonder no more. All you have to do is sign up and buy $250 from our sponsoring manufacturers who've been our sponsors since day one. That's Jackal, that is G. Loomis, that is Shimano, and that is Power Pro. You buy a $250 worth of equipment, and that is your entry fee. And essentially, everybody who fishes the tournament, and this is the great thing about our tournament, which is why we do it, is everybody wins. You go out fishing, you have a bad day, and guess what? You come back in, you're like, man, I only had 15 pounds. It's just a terrible day. I lost a big one. No, you won, bro. You won your $250 worth of tackle, and you get to keep that. And you get to go home with it and have it for the rest of the year and rest of many years to come, because it's good Shimano and G Loomis equipment, and you'll fish that forever and ever and ever. So the how it works is April the 18th, we open up for registration, and you can make your purchases either in the shop here or online at sfttackle.com. And we will get you and fill out a registration form, which will be on the website after this weekend. You guys can download the application, fill it out, get your partners to sign it, send it in with your receipt of the purchase, and you are entered into the tournament. You will show up the May 18th at the marina, and you'll pull your number for your boat number, and man, off you go. It's a great time. It's a great event. You don't have to be a pro. You don't have to be anything. You can just be a person saying, I want to try a tournament. I want to see what it's all about. And this is a way that you can spend your money and win it back right away for just signing up. You're winning that stuff that you're buying, and you get to keep that forever. So it's a really great tournament. It's a great idea. And like Nick says all the time, Nick always says, man, it's really cool because everybody's so happy. Well, everybody's happy because everybody already won. It's just going to the tournament and fishing. Now, you say, Nick, what do we win? Well, we give out over $8,000 in cash and prizes. So that's a really big deal. It's a big payout. So you're going to be fishing for that too. And I can't tell you how many times newbies get into the tournament and win money. They win. And it's really funny how guys are like, I'm never going to win anything. And they go down there and place 7th to 8th, 9th place and win $500, $600, $700, on top of the $250 that you just won. So it's a great thing. Check it out. sfttackle.com. After this weekend, I'll have all that information on there, and we will be able to, you'll be able to download the application. And then starting the 18th of April, you'll be eligible to register and make the purchase. So,
and along with that, Mike, is number one, we go out live. We do live on the water, which is always fun.
We do really cool stuff. Yeah.
And whoever wins,
yeah,
always is on the show the following week.
Absolutely. We get you on the show. You get to hang out with us. And we do a great recap of the show. So it's pretty cool. It's a cool thing. A lot of fun. So there you have it. So let's get this show rolling, man. We are a tackle shop, and we have a lot of tackle. I'm looking around, and we're like a bus sent to seams with a lot of tackle, and we love talking about tackle. And this is what we call tackle talk right now. Yeah. Ron Stem, you betcha, man. Came down with Jeff Santangelo, came down from a couple hours away and hung out with us for a little while, and appreciate that, pal. George, what's going on in the world of tackle? What is hot? What is happening? What can you tell us?
Well, I got one thing that I'm pretty excited about. Being a big-time Megabass jerkbait Vision 110 guy, and trying to fish them in shallow environments over the years, I've broken many a lip off. Caught a lot of fish, but have had some sacrificial lambs on that mission. And even talked about it on the show here about, going as high as to a 14-pound mono to shallow up that bait, which is a great solution, for example. But now we have the 110 shallow runner. And, man, is this ever going to solve some problems for me?
Boy, you're not kidding.
So you got a 110, standard 110 body. You got the 3 hooks. Now the hooks and the lip have been changed. So you got a short, stocky beefed up lip, a little bit of a cup in it. This bait was designed to be a little more side to side aggressive than a standard 110. And you can work your rod tip upwards and actually get this bait to twitch up. So we're having a whole new presentation here.
Yeah.
We're having the ability to fish 3 foot of water, 2 foot of water, and not break the bills off. We have what I consider to be an upgraded hook.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, we have it's a 1X hook, which means it's the wire is 1X times stronger than the first original hook. It's an out barb, and it has a silky gray like coating on it. They call it fluorine. So that coated hook.
Great.
Known for its hook set.
Yeah, hook set penetration.
Yep,
Absolutely.
Really exciting. I mean, it's pretty much the same stats: 4 1/3 inches long, 1/2 ounce, $24.99. And what I as a river fisherman, one of my passions is smallmouth river fishing. I'm all about this.
Mm-hmm.
As a tidal water fisherman, I'm really all about this. The ability to work this bait over grass, around grass. I'm a shallow water guy. This bad boy is fitting in my arsenal. I love the color it runs. If you're a largemouth fisherman, you're gonna love like the GG Megabass Concuro, which is just a classic gold, orange belly, largemouth, tidal water, largemouth color, cloudy day color. You're gonna love the Champagne Concuro, which is a much more like gold, light, washed out gold. No real orange on the belly. I mean, just a classic old school color, from back in the day with Megabass. I wanted to highlight a few colors because they're colors that, I've had a lot personal experience with, and I think they're going to fit in for so many people. Of course, what I feel is the greatest all-around color they've ever made, which is HT Edo Tennessee Shad. Obviously identified by its little chartreuse tip on the tail. HT halftone. So center line up, you have a foil like metallic. Center line down, you have that transparency. That see-through, that ghosty. Great, great, great all-around color. HT Edo Tennessee Shad. Of course, Wagasaki is a big-time color. Probably
second on our list.
I would say, yeah, about rivaling that.
Yeah.
Of course, you can always identify your Wagasaki colors by the purple. Purple on the tail.
No junior colors or sizes, just in the 110, right?
No, this is a 110.
Yeah, it's not, the SR isn't made in a junior.
No, I mean, a standard junior only runs like 5 feet deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wagasaki.
Love Wagasaki.
Now that Wagasaki is that is a FA, which stands for Fine Art Ghost Wagasaki.
Yeah, clear.
So that's their Fine Art Ghost Wagasaki.
See through.
And then the last one I wanted to highlight for you, probably not one of the best-selling colors that they have, but don't sleep on IU. Okay, now this is a IU is always identifiable by that yellowish spot on the cheek. And of course, this is a SHSE IU. And when I say, of course, this is an SHSE IU, it's kind of tongue in cheek. But flashy IU color, a lot of olive, killer. So those are a few colors I wanted to highlight because it's,
How many colors do they have?
there's a lot. I would say there's probably going to end up at, I mean, they've only shipped like 15 so far. So I'm guessing 24, 25.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is, fishing the rivers like we do a lot of, it's going to be, you can fish it hard, you can fish it fast, and it's not going to be getting down in there and busting lips off. It's a perfect level of depth range. And another thing I really like about it, Nick, is going to be fishing over top of the emergent grass this time of year. You got a lot of emergent grass, in that 4 or 5 feet of water. The grass is about a foot and a half tall. You can come across the top of that grass real easy with it. I'm excited about that big time.
Well, yeah, and it brings me back to that jerkbait is awesome. But it brings me back to the Three Rivers tournament where Kevin Van Dam won the classic. He was throwing a jerkbait that didn't dive very deep.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? There wasn't a whole lot of options out there, to be honest with
Right.
you.
Yeah.
So that's a great option.
Yeah, it is. It's a great option.
Yeah, this is a like, in my opinion, this is something Megabass should have done a long time ago. As well inventoried as they are in jerkbait selection, it's just absolutely bonkers. But here's a jerkbait that speaks to all anglers. I can pre-spawn largemouth around grass, around shallow flats. I can smallmouth fish, most of the year, because most of the year those river fish are shallow. In the spring, when they're up shallow on rivers and lakes spawning, I have a great option here. I mean, this jerkbait fits the bill for so much of what we do. Now, different situations are going to require a different line. The jerkbait, when you get dialed in on your jerkbait bite, a lot of it has to do with your line test. I'm still going to fish in fairly open water, open water, especially if it's clear water. I'm still going to fish a 10-pound fluorocarbon. We talked a couple weeks ago about not giving the strength that this fluorocarbon now possesses its full credit. You can get away with bloody murder on 10-pound fluorocarbon with the proper use of drag and rod angle. Now, when I get over top of some grass and some bigger fish, I'm medium heavy jerkbait guy. My rods are all medium heavy. I don't jerkbait with anything under a medium heavy rod, fast taper. When I get around some grass, that's gonna be converted to a 12 fluorocarbon, which again, big difference between 10 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm super excited about this bait. It's probably the most exciting bait that I've seen here in a couple weeks, next to the baby jack. And I mean, it's forever. Now we're gonna start building our arsenal and putting this thing to work. And what's funny about it is there's going to be a lot of situations where you're not going to pick this bait up. But here's the deal, and you guys are going to relate to this real quick. How many times, particularly pre-spawn and spawn, have you wanted to throw a jerkbait, but the jerkbait you have tied on is too deep for this scenario? But it's the shallowest jerkbait you have.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
All the time.
As a matter of fact, I spend a lot of time with a 110 with mono, and popping it upwards to do that. And so now I can have that jerkbait tied up, laying there. Oh man, this is perfect. Pick it up. And you know, I'm a little geary anyway, so just the ability to have another tool that fits in with one of my main core baits. You know, if you think about it, if you're a reservoir fisherman, other than spawning season, you'll never use this jerkbait. But if you're a tidal water guy, or if you're a shallow water guy, or if you're a river guy, there's a lot of time you're going to use this bait. And I always go back to, and I've talked to you guys about this numerous times, and I always go back to the discovery I made years ago on the Potomac River on a wicked cold front, which I believe is coming in this weekend.
Of course.
For you guys that are fishing.
Of course.
Like you guys that are fishing a tournament.
Of course.
And I was on the Potomac River, and I was on a really good pre-spawn grass bite. Really good. Matter of fact, I was fishing a tournament with my dad, and I always tell the story about, you know, tournament day, big frickin' ass cold front came in, fish were shut down, and for some reason we just kept like trying to figure out a key. And for whatever reason, I finally said, what about a jerkbait? You know, and kind of harken back to my river fishing roots. And I opened up my box. I still have the jerkbait, by the way. And I pulled out a 78 pointer in clown. And I mean, we just thumped them. And it was like an aha light switch moment for me. A, I didn't know that was going to happen. B, I didn't know that was going to happen. Now, I mean, I was a jerkbait guy.
Yeah, we were big time jerking back then.
And we were big time clown jerkbait.
We were jerking
guys.
clowns like it was going out of style.
You know,
yeah.
It was real easy to relate to that. Now, the clown jerkbait that we cut our teeth on was the Rogue.
Right.
Smithwick Rogue. Not the Pro Rogue.
Yeah.
Not this, like,
Rattling
they're trying
Rogue.
to
It's called a Rattling Rogue.
They're trying to reinvent the Rogue, like, every day of the week with all these different Rogues.
They didn't have like almost like a circuit board lip on it or something? Or
no circuit board lip.
Had
No.
a circuit
Regular
board
lip.
Had like a weird looking lip on it.
And it was called, and it was supposedly a suspending bait, but as we all know back then, it took a lot of work.
Well, that company started a whole company with Storm coming out with the spend dots and the spend strips back in those days, because that's
no, they didn't start a company with Storm. Storm started the suspend dots.
Yeah. That's what I said.
Right, but they're not like related at all.
No. What do you mean? Storm didn't start it?
Yeah, but Storm's not part of Pradco.
Did I say Pradco?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean that.
And then when you got it perfectly balanced,
you
didn't dare touch that bait.
No.
Don't mess with it. Don't even look at it.
You know,
we had hundreds of dots in our boat.
I mean, we would fish these things. Like I actually had one that the hooks had almost cut through the sides of the bait. And a lucky one. And at the old shop, I took that jerkbait and I hung it up on the post in the center of the cash wrap as a conversation piece. And some time went by. X amount of time. And, you know, it was a jerkbait time of year, which was spring and fall, particularly in the fall.
Yeah.
We just freaking punished fish on that thing in the fall. And I was telling the story to somebody, talking to somebody in the shop. You know, I love to tell stories. And I go, where the hell's my jerkbait at?
I'm
looking and I'm looking.
Don't look at me.
It's not there. Mike took the jerk. He had a tournament. He took the jerkbait off the wall that was almost cut through by the hooks. Knew he could get another couple days out of it. Okay. I'm cool with that.
It's perfectly balanced.
Broke the lip off of it.
It's perfectly balanced.
And I have it to this day in the boat, in a box. And when Mike and I are beefing on something in the fall, I will get that out and just change trajectory of the argument.
I think that's why he sells all my shit now.
True story. But the thing was, you develop confidence.
Yeah.
And
that's what happens.
I would urge everybody out there, to narrow it in, because now we have, the jerkbait is traditional usage. It's a scoping bait. We're using the jerkbait year round because of the scope. We're watching all of our favorite bass pros on TV use a jerkbait. We've all reinvigorated the jerkbait.
Yeah.
Mike and I have like 4 to 5 boxes of jerkbaits in the boat.
Yeah.
And
love the jerkbait. I just bought 2 more today.
That's the point of the jerkbait. So,
yeah.
If you're, dipping your toe into that, think about it from a confidence perspective, and think about it from I'm catching fish on the regular once I get my jerkbait dialed. And, the last couple weekends, 3 weeks in a row now, we've had tremendous good fun smallmouth fishing on the river.
Yeah.
As a group, 2-3 boats. Bubba scale tournament / bragging rights / learning from each other, because we've had easy fishing, and then we followed it up with 2 weeks of challenging fishing. And the challenging fishing is what makes you better fishermen when you solve that. Like last weekend, Nick and I were fishing together, and Mike was fishing with Anthony, and Tony was fishing with Corbin, fishing by himself first, and Corbin showed up. And Nick and I, we couldn't get it together on the smallmouth. It was touch and go there for a while, because I consider myself one of the 5 best smallmouth fishermen that I've ever met. I had to say that because it's funny. But no, we went through all of our progressions. We fished, we were fishing ditches next to spawning areas. We were fishing ledges that fed spawning areas. We were fishing flooded out islands and grass beds that hadn't emerged yet. I mean, we just went through the progression. And short of making a really big run up north, just threw the towel in and went largemouth fishing. It turned out to be great. We absolutely put a blistering on the largemouth. But, at that point, tournament-wise, we were in deep 3rd place out of 3. And we were in deep.
Yeah.
Deep. We were in deep. We had a deep problem because we had 21 pounds we knew from the Bubba scale tournament was leading this derby.
Mm-hmm.
And our 4 best fish were 3 3.5 pounders and a 3 1/4 pounder. Now, you're going to need to make some ground up at that point. Mm. And so we went largemouth fishing, and it didn't happen. But the learning aspect of it, while we didn't connect the dots, what we were doing is what they were doing, and it was a adjustment on a jerkbait that allowed them to pile up some ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
And some size.
Yeah.
And it had to do with, the couple rules that I like to follow with jerkbaits: size of the bait, size of the bait. One's artificial, one's live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Color is always second, but these baits were a very specific type of minnow that had a very bold color pattern to them.
Yeah.
With barring on them. I mean, bold, beautiful, beautiful bait. And there was millions of them, and the fish were just gorging on them. And all you had to do was kind of like mimic that when you were in the right area, and it was game on.
Yeah.
I mean, it was game on. So, we're always learning. The point of the story is, other than to tell a fun story, we're always learning, in the in the realm of just a jerkbait.
Well, it was,
You know?
and that's the key. The key was it was a jerkbait bite. I mean, if you caught good fish, it was on a jerkbait. You could throw a chatterbait, nothing would happen. You could throw a jig. For us, nothing would happen. You could throw a tube. You know, they wouldn't eat it. The Ned rig we threw, you know, we did. They just wanted this jerkbait, and that's what, you know, because it was miserable weather, and the bite was, you know, you had to make them eat it. And they ate it. But what, you know, if you worked it the right way and you had the right size bait, it was lights out.
The weather
lights
did
out.
not shut the fish off. It was miserable for the angler.
Well, I'm going to say this: where you guys were at, the weather screwed you guys, because, you know, that's what happens down there. Up where we were at, you know, it was shallow water. It was a lot shallower than what you guys were fishing, and there was a ton of bait. There was a freaking ton of bait. And
I felt like I ran the whole ways across Albemarle Sound.
yeah, I mean, it was different down where you guys were at. Where we were at, it was a totally different bite, and the fish were aggressive, and smallies are aggressive in miserable weather, but you couldn't throw a tube and catch them. You had to throw a jerk. And honestly, that the 110 junior was the bait. It wasn't anything else but that. I mean, that thing, you wanted to catch a big fish, you threw the 110 junior, and
It was small bait.
the baits were, you know, for anything from this to that, but it was a perfect size for a 110 junior.
And they weren't a shad, so they had a pencil like profile.
Yeah,
And boy,
they ate that thing, man.
The week before they ate it.
Yeah, they flat out ate that thing. So, you know, but that's what you learn. It's jerkbait fishing. It's the cadence, it's the size, and it's the color. That's what you do.
Yeah. So now we have a new tool.
Yep.
And I certainly plan on adding a few to arsenal.
Yeah. What else you got there, brother?
Well, I have a few things that I was watching on TV today with the Bassmasters that, you know, caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was Brian Schmidt power shotting. You know, and I've had some exposure to power shotting that, you know, that occurred in my boat during tournaments where I was like, get that bait up off the bottom. You know, it's basically drop shotting with a big rod and big line.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually use like a 15 fluorocarbon. But you know, I'm kind of like we've been drop shotting a lot of tidal water the last few years with a spinning rod, but we've been using like 12 and 14 pound leader, drop shotting grass that way, drop shotting hardcover that way, and that's kind of like in between a drop shot and a power shot. And the first time that I ever did like power shotting was at a BFL tournament, and I just couldn't make these fish bite. And they were big. They were all like 5-pounders. And when I finally figured out to power shot them, I lost them all, one after another. It was the most sickening thing ever. Hook a 5.5, 6-pounder and lose them at the side of the boat because I didn't have the right hook. You know, I didn't have the knowledge about that then, and I was just adapting on the fly. You know, at one point I got so frustrated I took a 3.0 wide cap and wacky rigged a Senko on it. I mean, I was just so desperate. I was so frustrated. I'd lost like 15, 16 pounds of fish. So since then, from the success of that, you know, I power shot 2 ways. My most deadliest way during the spawn, when I'm around spawning fish, is to wacky rig a Senko on a power shot. And I've got like, I am really confident in this technique. I use a 7 to, whatever, 7.1, 7.2, whatever I got laying around. Medium heavy, 15 fluorocarbon. But that frickin' hook that was burning me no longer burns me. I have the Wicked Wacky. And, tackle talk is usually about something new. This ain't new.
That's been around forever.
This is overlooked. This hook's mean. Let me tell you, when you hook them on this hook, they're freaking hooked. This is what's known as a kale hook.
Yeah, big wide gap. Big wide gap.
This is a kale hook, and it bites. But here's the key. Weed guard. Nylon, weed guard. I can adjust it. I can tweak it a little bit. And then I wacky a 5-inch Senko on there. That's a 2-aught. That's actually a 1-aught. Sometimes I'll use a 1-aught. Sometimes I'll use a 2-aught. I looked at the package. I thought it was a 2-aught. But now I can flip in there around boat docks or shallow spawning zones where the fish are just turned off. It could be weather. It could be pressure. It could be whatever. And, in this case, I was fishing a marina that they were spawning in, and it was, boats coming in around the area where I was fishing in shallow water. The fish were pressured. They weren't having it. And, I went on this wacky rig power shot desperation move, which worked great, except for I didn't have the right hooks. And I didn't realize it because I didn't realize it. But I learned. I adjusted. This is awesome.
Yeah.
There are other options. They're very nice. Hayabusa makes a more traditional round bend power wacky. I mean, there's other options. I really like this hook. 15-pound fluorocarbon. One of the things I like to do on my power shot, a short leader. I mean, certainly no more than 9 inches. But one of the things I like to do, I like to use a bullet weight. I like to use a bullet weight. Probably hard to see.
You can see it. You can see it.
And instead of a drop shot weight. And what I do is I put the bullet weight on my leader, and then I either take a little barrel swivel or a split ring, and I tie it to my leader so my bullet weight doesn't fall off. And, if there's grass around or if there's, wood, sticks and whatnot, rock, I get through that a little better with that bullet weight. And it's just something I like to do. So I just tie up a standard drop shot with 15 fluorocarbon. I fish it on, obviously, bait casting rod with, medium heavy.
I think that's a big thing, the bait casting and the power shotting. When you're in around that cover, you can handle those fish, those bigger fish better.
Plus, I have precision cast placement with the pitching technique.
Yeah.
Over a spinning rod.
Yeah.
Now, in between a standard drop shot and a power shot is a beefed up drop shot, which, we're doing 12-pound leader, 14-pound leader. We just got a chance to watch the Bassmasters Classic with Fothergill. He was using a 17-pound leader.
Really?
On a spinning rod.
Well, they got them terrible barnacles down there.
No. The Classic. It was in Texas.
Oh, the Classic. Okay, yeah.
And I'm sure he's using 17-pound leader here.
Yeah,
but what's cool about that is the resurgence of the power spinning rod. So have, as soon as somebody says the word drop shot, they immediately envision a soft spinning rod.
Yeah.
Now, my coach took me off of that, and I was all about it. And I have I have nothing wrong with anybody that does that in open water. But around cover, that's no bueno. And my coach took me off of that, and he said, go with a nice stout hook, but not a flipping hook. And there's every brand makes one. I'm a Gamakatsu guy. I come up on this Finesse straight shank hook, right? Hold it this way, they won't fall over. 1/0. It has a lead keeper on the shank of the hook, because what I'm fishing with is a 6 or 7 inch finesse worm. So I want a little bit of hook. I'm fishing around docks and trees and grass. And I want a Texas rig. And then I want a hook that matches my medium heavy spinning rod. Or you can use a bait casting rod if you're more comfortable. And I use 15-pound braid to a 12 or 14 leader. And I got enough juice to jack them. And that straight shanked hook, that Finesse has got that little bit of gap to it. Look at that gap.
Big gap on that thing.
I'm going to bring him in the boat and show him how pretty the sky is. That's a deadly little setup. I'm going to do a traditional drop shot. Again, a shorter leader.
What not? George Wheat is asking what's your favorite knot for tying on
Palomar.
Yeah.
I tie a Palomar and then I bring my leader back down through the eye.
Yeah.
And I get a nice little standout.
Yeah, we haven't really varied from that too much, George. It's the Palomar knot, and then you bring the line, the tag end line back down through the hook, and it stands it out really nice for you.
And I love a 6 or 7 inch finesse worm. I have my favorites. Mike has his favorites. Nick has his favorites. If you're interested. I love the Missile Magic Worm. I've been falling in love with this Nico Rama. I'm a Zoom trick worm guy. Zoom trick worm. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about here?
Catchable on that. So,
I have a bag in my boat, like a Bass Mafia bag with way too many bags of finesse worms in it, from 4.5 to 6, 7. And I either shaky head them or I drop shot them. And on the topic of shaky head, something that, I think is very interesting is a worm that seems to be really becoming a hot little item around here. And it's the SMH worm from Z-Man, which we've talked about before. But this thing's got like a rebirth. Excuse me. What's beautiful about this is it stands up because it's TPE, Elastec. It floats.
You need to hydrate there, buddy.
I do.
You need to hydrate. Getting dried out.
I'll cure you.
Yeah, so that's what it really does. It stands. It's when you rig it on especially on their head, they got a great head, and that thing will stand that plastic up really super nice, and then that plastic floats, so it really stands it up nice. And it's SMH, man, definitely is a player, and guys are really falling in love with that thing.
What's that SMH stand for?
I know what that stands for.
Oh, well, let's hear it.
I don't know. Shake my head. Yeah, I thought I was going to say shake my head.
That's a B-lat. That's a B-lat.
I wanted to say smash my hook, but
that's a B-lat.
I like smash my hook better. B-lat, yeah.
So what I like to do when I'm tying up a drop shot rig, is, let me see here. For those of you who are not like totally dialed in on this, I'm going to do it with some heavier duty stuff so you can see it. I mean, I'm going to do it with a punch and hook.
Power shot.
And I'm going to do it with, I always have a spool of line laying around. And today's no different. So we were asked about what hook.
No, what?
Or what
not.
So I like to tie a Palomar, okay? I see no reason to not tie a Palomar. But I am going to emphasize whether you're tying a drop shot or you're tying on a hook or a jig, you got to be careful with fluorocarbon. So, double your line over, but make it a little longer because this is going to be your leader to your sinker. And here's the key, guys. When you put your loop of line through your eye of your hook, or if you're a straight through and come back guy, always go through on the point side. So obviously I know a lot of you watching are well versed in this, and that's great. But we also have a lot of people that are like, this is a new technique that I want to get better at. So we're gonna break down some nuts and bolts. Okay, so here we are. And we're just going to tie a Palomar knot. Overhand knot there. But bring the point of the hook up through your loop. Okay? Point side. Everything's on the point side. And then put your little finger through that loop. You do not want to let this knot get tight. You have to keep this knot expanded. Okay, until it gets to the last tiniest bit of tensioning. Moisten it up. And as you draw it down, use this finger to keep loosening it up. Just keep loosening it up. You get down here close, you can actually kind of grab the loop and throw it in some slack in there. Now, that last little bit, and you can actually feel it. I've said this. It'll click. Now, what happened was you didn't drag that knot down. What happens on fluorocarbon is it's very, very sensitive to heat, friction. So when you drag that line down, it's chafing that line. It's putting friction on that line. It is weakening that line. We hear it in here all the time, guys talking about breaking off their line. So now, what I like to do is take my tag end and go down through the eye of my hook and put my sinker on. And that kind of, tends to, obviously it's not going to happen with a big flipping hook, but that tends to lever that hook out a little bit. And then I'll put my drop shot weight on down here and we're good to go. This baby ain't breaking. Right?
I haven't had any problems with breaking them. I know guys say that, they've had some failure with a polymer on a drop shot, but I think
I just showed you why.
I mean, that's the biggest thing is not have that knot tighten up before that loop comes down. You got to shrink that loop way down because you're dealing with, when you're tying those things on, you got a big loop area. You got to really shrink that thing down and then get it, like George said, just the last second, lock it down.
Yeah, Bob Austin's wanting me to go up on the weight. Now, I will say this, Bob. Most of the time when I drop shot with a pinch on weight, a traditional pinch on drop shot weight, I'm using lead most of the time. For no apparent reason other than I'm usually using a light weight. A lot of times when I'm power shotting, I'm using a bullet weight, as I discussed earlier, and tying on a little swivel or something to keep the bullet weight from falling off the line. Allow me to elaborate. And it's just something I like to do. You know, on my heavier tackle. And I'll just tie a little clinch knot there because there's no strength concerns at all. And for those of you who are like, well, you're tying on an extra knot. Well, if you use a tie on drop shot weight, you know, with a ring like that, you got to tie that on too. That has a ring eye.
Yeah, we get it.
Take my word for it.
We get it.
Not a pinch on. So now what I do is got my little drop shot rig here, power shot. I got my little bullet weight down there. Usually I use a split ring, but I'll use a little barrel swivel. It don't matter. There I go. Put my worm on there. And there I go. Pitch that into my cover. Pitch that into my zone. Boom. Yeah. You like to use a pinch on weight? By all means, use a pinch on weight. I mean, it's okay. I just highlighting some stuff that I like to do, right? It only takes a minute. Drop shot weights, you know, for that kind of technique, they make tie on. You know, Picasso makes an excellent assortment of tungsten drop shot weights. Should you be so inclined to go tungsten, they make pinch on and they make tie on from a 1/16 to an ounce.
So George talked about
in two different shapes.
George talked
cylinder and teardrop.
Yeah, George talked about, you know, finesse worms and wacky rigging, but you know, when you're power shotting, you can power shot just about anything you want. I mean, you could put a, you know, creature bait on there. You could put a tube. I know guys that drop shot up in Lake Oneida, for instance, in the grass with a tube. They power shot it in that you know, that 15-foot grass. They'll put a tube on there. I know guys that put crawls on there. You know, they like to fish a crawl on there.
You're getting closer.
What?
To what I like.
I mean, there's a lot of different things you can put on there. So
how about a brush hog?
A brush hog. You can put a brush hog on there, like good creature bait, good solid creature bait on there.
If I may elaborate on the brush hog. So here's what we got for you. And when I say brush hog, I mean Zoom. It's code for Zoom invented it. Baby brush hog. Deadly, absolutely freaking deadly springtime bait. Flip it, pitch it, fish wood with it, fish pad stems with it, fish grass clumps with it. If you're not using baby brush hogs or full-size brush hogs, you're making a horrible mistake. They make a million colors. You know, I'm a tidal water guy. I love the grapes. This one's called Blue Fleck. I mean, come on. But we got a new player. And I think it's the perfect addition to the family. I've been using it for 3 years now. I'm in my peak brush hog season right now. The mid-size brush hog. Look at that. We got the whole family loaded up in the family truckster going for a picnic. We got the baby truck in the back. We got the mid-size. And we got the full Mac Daddy. You cannot underestimate the absolute fish-catching ability of a brush hog. I love to Texas rig. I always have at least 1/4 ounce Texas rig with a brush hog or a baby brush hog or a mid-sized brush hog. And I always keep them honest. I love to keep them honest with that bait. In the spawn season, even when it's cold, I like to go up dirt shallow on a lower tide and pick apart all that wood. And if I'm getting the right bites, if I'm getting a bunch of bucks, I'm thinking, and the moon's coming, I'm thinking the big girls are showing up to the party within the next day or two. There's everybody and their brother Strike King makes a game hog. Crush City's been making a ton of noise, and they have a hedgehog. Well, hedgehog, brush hog. It's more the size of a baby. In case you haven't seen the hedgehog, it's more the size of the baby. And it's nice. But to each their own, whatever brand. My mission here is to highlight mid-size brush hog.
Yeah,
makes me happy to put this thing on.
It's a good bait to put on, on a power shot. It makes a really good, makes a really good.
Awesome on a power shot.
Yeah.
Awesome, just shallow water pitching and flipping.
Yeah.
Awesome for fishing grass clumps.
Well, yeah.
It's just an awesome Carolina rig bait.
Yeah, absolutely.
Killer Carolina rig bait. Post spawn when they move out.
Mm-hmm.
Killer Carolina rig bait. But the mid-size, I think, is the thing what we're discussing here. A little bit bigger than the baby. Perfect profile. I want to highlight that because
love that mid-size.
I like brush hogs, and that's what I like.
With your brush hog, we're talking the mid or the bigger one. What is your favorite hook when you're flipping Texas rig?
Yeah, I go off the normal path here a little bit. If it was tournament day, it would be a straight shank flipping hook.
Okay.
Not a big heavy duty, not a frickin' 3X gaff, because I'm fishing this in more open light cover. And, I'm fishing a medium heavy to a heavy rod, and I'm using 3/0 on the mid-size. But I'll tell you, for day-to-day fishing, don't sleep on the Superline EWG. And if you're just fun fishing with lighter tackle, put a regular EWG on.
Now, why is that your theory, George?
It's a lot less maintenance. Straight shanked hooks, you're constantly fixing your bait once it gets tore up a little bit, which is okay on tournament day. But when you're fun fishing, you don't want to make a flip, drag it through some brush, fix your bait. So this has a great hookup ratio. Probably use this more than anything, right?
That's what I use. I use it all the time.
And I like the Superline.
I like the Superline too.
Yep.
But I use that hook all the time. I think it's the greatest hook ever.
But I think the straight shank is more. It's just got that little bit. If you're in a tournament situation, it does make a difference. The nice thing about this bait, if you think about it, it looks bulky, but it's really a skinny worm body. You can fish a standard offset shank worm hook like a round bend all day long.
Yeah.
And you'll get a tremendous hook shot out of that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, the real juice here is there's not too many hooks that don't work well with it because it's basically a worm. It's basically a worm
with some appendages,
with some stuff on it.
Yeah.
Look at the body. The body itself is a skinny little finesse worm body, right? Here's a finesse worm, and here's a mid-sized brush hog body. They're very close. So you don't need like a ton of hook for that. But you're using a little bit more beef on your rod, so you don't want to, if I'm using my heavier rod, I don't want a regular EWG. I want a Superline. And just like my flipping hook, I don't want the hook I use for my drop shot. I want the next grade up because I don't want flexing out on a big fish. But I don't want like a freaking tank hook, I might use a Hayabusa straight, or I might use a finesse heavy cover Gamakatsu straight. They're a little beefier. So get around some big fish, some heavy cover, big line, then I'm going to go to the regular heavy cover straight shank. So match your hook. That's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
The brush hog.
Yeah, love that brush hog.
And the hedgehog.
How many big fish were caught on that thing?
Huh.
I mean, ridiculous.
I mean, the thing just constantly works. Constantly works. Spring, summer, winter, or not winter. Spring, summer, fall. Thing works all the time, man.
Yeah.
Way back in the day, and I'm going back to like 1990, when we became a Zoom dealer. We became a direct Zoom dealer. Direct to Zoom. Can't do that today. Mr. Chambers sent us a cardboard box about not that big, about like this. And in it was this big continuous strip of plastic, like probably 8 feet tall, with little individual plastic bags that had a worm or a bait in it laminated to it. And that was their catalog. And like when they had the worm on there, the U-tail, they had one of each color. That's why this thing was like 8 feet long. Today it would be like 80 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
But we're looking through it, and we're like, yeah, okay. What in the unholy hell is this thing? I mean,
He said that a couple times with his stuff.
what in the world is this brush hog thing? And of course, we added some into our inventory and we took it out and fished it, and so became, converts. We said the same thing with the centipede.
Yeah.
What kind of sprue runoff waste are you putting in a bag here?
Yeah, he's like, I got to make some money on this waste, so that's what we thought.
Wrong.
Yeah.
One of the greatest baits of all time. Yeah. So, if you're not brush hog people, become brush hog people. Yeah. If you are brush hog people and you're standard size and baby, get you a pack up to a mid. And don't get too bogged down on the hook. Use the hook you like. They all work well. It's just a worm body. But I'll tell you, this time of the year, when I'm up looking for pre-spawn fish, one of my key baits is a brush hog.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, I'm getting bit good on something else, but I'm usually getting bit good on some sort of a brush hog of some size. Yeah. Beautiful bait.
Great stuff. Man, we got a nice crowd here. If you all guys, if you would just like and share our show here on the social media platform that you're on, Facebook or YouTube's. Tell your friends about it. Tell your friends about Tackle Shop Live, and that'll help us out. And you can go to our website, sfttackle.com, and check out all these baits that we're talking about. The show's all about tackle, and it's all about technique, and we like to teach and learn, and you can keep notes while you go through there, and Caitlin puts on some links on the chat there, and you can check out the stuff, and but we appreciate it. We appreciate you guys a lot for that, and we appreciate you guys who purchase and buy from us online, and it means a lot for us. So we do appreciate it.
So I got a little update for you.
Okay.
I'm all about this baby jackhammer. Whew. I mean, I'm a big time jackhammer guy. I'm a chatterbait junkie. I have a problem when it comes to that. I'll die on that hill. I will die on that hill. But I am a believer that in the spring of the year, there's not a day that goes by that there's not some form. And I don't use the word bladed jig, because I find that insulting to the people that invented the chatterbait. I call them chatterbaits. But I can't say enough about it. I'm all about it. And it generates a lot of times a bigger bite. So, I'm always looking for different, my head, I'm thinking all the time. Some crazy stuff. And, tough bite or super shallow water, or I've been through this area 2 or 3 times and I want to come back and try to spark them back up again. That's kind of where my mind goes. So, last week we did baby jackhammer, and we talked about it. We talked about the trailers, how you can get the hunting action out of your bait. But if you put too much of a trailer on there, it trims that out a little bit, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So my latest experimentation has been with the baby. I don't know if it's called the baby. It's the Chatter Shad 3.5.
Yeah.
Now, a couple things I like about this on the jackhammer. One, it's a Lastec. So when it gets on there, it ain't coming off of there. Okay. I'm going to catch a frick ton of fish on one trailer, which is good because it's a little hard to get on there. Nice and straight like that. 2, it's got that fishtail. 3, this bait really comes alive with this thing and hunts. So I'm sharing the baby jack adventure with you. I'm spending a lot of time fishing the baby jack when I get to go fishing, which is, at least once a week. And, I'm doing some experimentation. So,
yeah, good stuff.
I'm with you all in this.
Love the sound of that thing. Love the feel of it.
Look at that.
Got that nice hook
smallmouth
in it.
magic with, oh my God. And
That's
a lot of kick with this trailer. So,
yeah.
baby jack update. Yeah, good stuff. I got a special for the people, because you got to give the people what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. I like specials.
Last week we did the Sunline line bag.
Yeah, which a lot of guys took advantage of. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Pretty well. Don't have enough line bags to do that again.
Yeah.
But I have a Daiwa collapsible tackle bag. Well, tote.
Nice.
Super nice.
Super nice.
So we got the Feel Alive bag.
Kind of got like a hard top on it too.
Zipper open here.
Nice bag.
Pretty good size. I mean, it's like
a whole 3,700 for sure. A couple of them.
Yeah, it's like 9 or 10 inches deep.
Yeah. Oh, plenty.
And if you don't want to zip it every time, you just got your quick little Velcro doohickey to keep it from blowing open on you. And then if you're not going to use it, you don't want it taking up space, you can just collapse her on down.
Take your tackle out. You need a place for the bag. Collapse it down. Put it away. That's a good little travel bag, Nick. I'm not going to bring one though, Nick. When I fish with you, I fish all your tackle. You know that. I ain't packing a freaking tackle bag to go fishing with you.
What's on your rods? What you got?
Yeah, that's it. That's it, bro. I'm grabbing 5 rods and I'm jumping in your boat.
Going fishing with your buddy?
I might bring you a sandwich.
You can put what you need in there. Multiple storage options. But here's the deal. It's a nice bag.
Really nice bag.
If you spend $100 on Daiwa rod or reel, so $100 minimum. So you can
pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I mean you can buy a Tatula XT.
It's pretty easy.
You're gonna get that bag.
Yeah.
You can buy any reel from $100 and over. Okay. And yes, so that none of you have to call, $99.99 will equal $100. I'm just telling you, you're going to get one of those bags.
It's a promotion that they've run that promotion, but you got to send in for it. And you got to do all this. We have them. George and I, we bought a bunch of them. We got a bunch of them. So we've been doing
They fell off the back of a truck.
We've been doing all that for our customers here in the shop. We just give them a bag when they buy it. So it's something that we a promotion we do right here, and it's instant. What do they call that? Instant gratification, George.
It's almost instant. We got to ship it to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you have it.
It's a great deal.
So, that's the expanded like tackle talk plus technique talk.
That's good stuff, George.
I got inspired by the Pascatank River and a lot of flipping, which led to that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another bait that's getting a lot of juice out there. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't thrown it yet, but I intend to rectify that situation. And it's also Crush City. Yeah, here it is. The Bronco bug. Look at that. It's almost like a hinge tail, flipping body. This is a pitching and flipping chunk. And it's getting a lot of press because of what Wheeler's been doing with it this year. Check it out. It's called the Bronco bug. Almost forgot about that.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it in the past, but
Yeah.
I was taking a stroll down memory lane.
Well,
flipping.
This tournament's been pretty cool. Watching it. We've been watching it all day, Nick, on the computer. We stream it on the big screen. So if anybody wants to come in on their lunch break or whether, you can watch it right on the big screen.
Did you see the weights today, fellas?
But that's what I was just going to say. That the funny thing about that was it was like the first bunch of people that came in, 3 pounds, 3 fish, maybe a guy had 8 pounds. There was a 6 pound, there was a 1 pound, there was a, guys weren't catching well. And the further into this field that it went, all of a sudden there was a 18-pound bag. Everybody, oh my God. And then Trey McKinney steps up to the plate. It's like 23, drops a 23-pound bag on the scales. Everybody's like, holy crud, this is what we came for. And right after that, the next guy up comes Father Gill, and he weighs 23.15 and takes first. I think McKinney had 23.7. This guy had 23.15. And so we're like, oh my gosh, you're catching some big bags, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden this dude comes up, man, drops a 30-pound bag on there. I was like, now Welcher. Everybody's been talking about it. They've been
30-11.
They were saying there's big fish in here. There's big fish in here. And we were like, what the hell is going on here? And all of a sudden, boom, they started dropping those big bags on there. So it's pretty cool.
Lunker's 8.2. There was
a couple
7s.
Keith Combs.
There was a few 6s, a couple 7s. Yeah, Keith Combs has the 8.2.
But what time is it right now, George? It's 8:39. I guarantee you that there's still a line at the trailers. There
ain't no doubt
to fix boats.
There ain't no doubt.
I guarantee you.
Oh yeah.
Every single person that got on stage was like, what in the heck? They got beat up terrible.
So you're talking about that. And this, I don't even know the name of the venue. This is new. I mean, I don't remember them going there.
Yeah, that's the Albemarle Sound right out there.
So
yeah,
with that, guys, this body of water they're in, this is a big body of water.
Oh yeah.
What all does it encompass? And it's a tidal water, but it's not.
It's shallow. The problem with it is shallow. And as well as I do, when you run shallow water and you have a little bit of tide, but shallow water, again, with any kind of wind, you get crazy waves. And because it is what it is, it probably has different troughs and channels and stuff. And the waves come at you from all different directions. And it's, I in my mind, I envision I envision the mouth of Mattawoman trying to get across to Lee Sylvania side or over to that other side over there and trying to go across that mess in a 20-mile-an-hour wind, because that they come at you. I swear those waves have their own minds and they come at you from the side. You know, they come at you
like
front.
a spider monkey.
They come at you
You're
from
in a washing
behind.
machine.
They're horrible. It's that spot on the Potomac River is one of the worst spots ever. And there's like a 2-mile section of it that you will get your freaking butt handed to you if you don't know what you're doing. You get cocky. You're like running a 2 or 3, 4 or 5 wave set, and then there's a rogue wave. It might come from the side. It might come right at you. It might come from behind you. I mean, I don't know. I've been in all kinds of stuff. That's what you're dealing with there, and that's why those guys are like, man, we're getting beat up so bad, is because they can't run. You know what I mean? It's just not like get on a set of waves and run a set of waves.
Well, I was telling you earlier today, Chad Pipkins didn't make it to weigh in. It was so bad. He gave himself time, but he's like, okay, this is as fast as I can go through these waves. And if you do the miles per hour, it doesn't add up to me getting back.
Yeah.
So he stopped with 25 miles to go.
Yeah.
Because he's like, it's not worth me beating up my boat and
Yeah.
everything else. I'm not going to make it back. And it's just interesting. And then he said he can't even go fishing where he went tomorrow because of the wind.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of these guys, they know how to get on top of the waves and run the waves, but in that kind of tidal water-ish, and the thing really is he's cut off these channels that have been worn in those tidal bodies of water, or I don't even know if we want, because it isn't much of a tidal thing, but it has tide and there's currents and there's different things, but and you got the ocean right there. The ocean's right there, so that's sucking water out. That's pushing water in. It's not a tide, but it does, like they said, the water dropped several feet at the top where those guys were going. And a lot of those guys were like, well, they didn't catch anything because the water wasn't there.
It was already shallow.
It was blown out, and it cuts these little channels and stuff. So that's what makes these waves come at you at all different directions. So you can't get on top of them and just scoot across the top of them, because I'm telling you, the 7th, 8th one is a killer wave. It's gonna that you're gonna stuff. And that's what they were saying.
Did you see Arnhem?
Yeah.
Arnhem was driving this morning to get to his spot. I guess he was going across the river or whatever. And he has one of the 19-inch screens on the front.
Yeah.
And he speared a wave and it took his graphs right off the mounts. Like it took his mount off the boat.
Yeah.
So he had to stop. And then, he was running live camera this morning.
Yeah. Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's terrible.
So it's brutal.
It's terrible. So, it's unfortunate that they have to deal with all this wind, because I think if they didn't have all this wind, it would really shine on what that place is all about.
Well, you bring up wind. We talked about that today.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been windier than ever, no matter where you go. Am I the only one who thinks that? It's like every day.
You'll think the same thing next year in April.
Yeah, I know, but it just seems like it doesn't stop.
Well, I mean, on the Bassmasters, it seems like they're dealing with a lot of wind for every tournament.
Every tournament.
And we saw poor Trey McKinney almost sink his boat at the Bassmaster Classic with waves and stuff.
Well, you just had
on the
boat
boat ramp.
The Open was just canceled a couple days.
It just seems like it really is.
It's every spring.
That's true.
You're right. It seems bad. It does seem a lot worse, but anyway.
The interesting thing I think about this body of water, it's new. These guys didn't have a whole lot of history to go by, I believe. Breaking down that big a body of water in 3 days.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
I think
it's all about the rivers.
Yeah, I think tomorrow you're going to see
the bay has nothing to do with it. The Albemarle Sound has nothing to do with it.
Picking rivers off the bay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
I think you'll see tomorrow a lot of these guys are figuring stuff out today. They figured a lot of stuff out today.
Still practicing.
Yeah, and they're getting these little hints and these little things. I think you'll see if they can get to their stuff and it's not horrible windy and stuff like that. I think you'll see some really, a lot more of these big bags.
Well, you heard what Fothergill said when he caught his second good fish this morning. I figured him out. We're going to have a big bag.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Try 23-13, second place.
Yeah.
This guy is on a run.
He is.
He is on a run.
He's amazing.
Trey
McKinney's amazing.
10th place, which would be your cutoff for Championship Sunday is 16-14. So, tomorrow would be like 30. And then you would figure the next day to be 44. So mark it, Dewey.
Yeah.
44 pounds gets you in Championship Sunday.
You know what? And that's a good thing. It's an interesting tournament. It reminds me of one of them tournaments. I know Welcher caught 30 pounds today, but it reminds me of one of them tournaments that tomorrow he could go and have the total opposite day.
Oh yeah.
And
You're
somebody
right.
else could have that day.
They're going to bring a 10-pounder in. They said
It's cool.
somebody's going to bring a 10-pounder in. I will see.
50th place cutoff, Scott Canterbury, 11-7. 50th place is the money cut, and it is the day tomorrow's cut. Anybody below 50 doesn't fish tomorrow. So that cut, 23-14. Market
Dewey. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask you a question, George. You've had tournaments where you made long runs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In your experience, were the runs worth it in a tournament, or how did it play out?
So it's fishing, and that sounds stupid, but you pre-fish, you come up with your best game plan that suits what you're willing to do. And I've had it both ways. I've had it where, you make that run and your first stop in 15 minutes, you have 17 pounds in the boat. You're good with that. I've had it where you go back the next day and whatever weather occurred overnight, whatever, it takes you, 6 hours, your allotted time, or 5.5 hours, depending on how far you're running, or 5 hours, and you scrounge out what's not worth it. So, that's not a cut and dried thing. The thing about tournament fishing that I find as a spectator watching at this level, we're watching 99, I think, of the best.
Right.
And the thing I find fascinating about watching this is the decision-making progress. So we had Mike Iaconelli on stage today, who's a 30-year plus veteran of this from the Northeast. So he's been there and done that more times than he probably forgot most of them runs. Like, I remember him in the classic that he won,
Louisiana Delta,
running
Yeah.
with radar in his boat.
I remember that.
Yeah.
He had radar in his boat because the fog when you're making a 100-mile run, if they let you off at blast off for no fog, that could be completely meaningless for the next 50 miles. And he was going to run in the fog. So, I mean, this guy knows when he talks about a run, he knows about a run. He's probably driven his boat from Plattsburgh to Ticonderoga farther than most people have driven their cars in their life. I mean, my point is the Chesapeake Bay, the Potomac River, the Sabine River. I mean, this is a guy that is at the highest level of the sport. And he comes in today and he says that it is the worst he's ever experienced.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Because of those rogue waves coming at you from every different direction. That's what everybody was complaining about.
And like you say, George, he's seen things.
Yeah.
When you have shallow water,
Yeah.
when you have shallow water fishery,
Yeah.
and wind, it's almost like it's different than like if this was the same exact scenario on Lake Erie, those waves would have been very manageable and spaced out because it was only a 15-mile-an-hour wind. So it would have been like this is like an estuary. This is like the Chesapeake Bay. This is like Potomac River.
Yeah.
Don't work like that.
Comes at you from all different directions.
Don't work like that.
Eat you up.
You might be a Lake Erie guy. You might be a Lake Champlain guy. You might be a Niagara River guy. No.
I fished with a guy who was a Lake Erie guy, and we went out of Mattawoman. We ran over to Pennsylvania for whatever reason. It was a red man All-American. It was a red man tournament, and this guy was, I'm like, he said it's going to blow hard, so we got to go over this spot. So we go over there, and tide blew out and all his fish were gone. And he's like, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, I'm pounding them in the Mattawoman. Let's go." So we start running back across. This freaking guy starts panicking and screaming like, "What's going on?" The boat's blowing out because he has a 3-blade prop and it was blowing out like crazy. And I'm like, "You got to slow down. You got to just, get on one and ride it, ride it over." And these were mean waves. I mean, it was mean.
Deadliest catch.
It was mean. And they were doing this thing where they were coming this way and he'd be like 3 or 4 and all of a sudden one smacking the back of the head. It was the most unbelievable thing. But anyway, we got him across. I said, "You just got to calm down. You'll be all right. Just take your time." And so we get across there and he was scared to death. He said, "Oh man, I run Erie all the time." I said, "Welcome to tidal, shallow tidal water, bro." I said, "This is the way it is down here all the time."
So for Mike, for you, what do you prefer? Would you run or do you take the time? Would you fish more time?
It depends on how good the fish are that I had, so many, there's so many factors. And Gerald Swindell said it today. He said, "Yeah, I ran all the way, beat my ass all the way to where I wanted to go, hour and a half to get there to find out that the water was down by 1.5 feet and none of the fish bit." It's like,
well, and there's another aspect to that, Mike. And Steve Kennedy said it best. I did really good in practice.
Yeah.
And it took me, 2 hours to get there.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
This is where
once you sow those roots, but to make that decision,
this is where I'm fishing today. And I now have less than 4 hours.
Yeah, I know.
To make that call.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. If you don't have the knowledge of that body of water, like they don't have the knowledge of that body of water, these are all kind of guys that they learn what they can learn. They read what they could read, but they don't have the knowledge of, all right, a northwest wind blows like this. It sucks the water and makes it lower over here. I know that I'm not going to make that run up to that spot.
Hell, few locals have that knowledge.
Yeah.
There's only a few locals that have that knowledge.
Well, I don't know.
It's tricky.
I don't know. Like Potomac River. I know that if it's blowing for 2 days out of the northwest, I know that there's things that are going to happen. I know that the Mattawoman gets super low on a super hard wind on an outgoing tide, and
that's one river.
Your shit's underwater. You know what I mean? Your shit is out of water. There's no water within 20 feet of where you were catching them the day before. So I know that, but down there, you got a game plan that you got to run, and I can understand why those guys made that whole run and then had to fish it. They couldn't just turn around and run because the conditions wouldn't allow them just to run from spot to spot. What would I do? I would probably do the same thing if I practiced something and those guys were catching 6-pounders in practice. I would make the run.
Oh, I would too.
And I'd commit.
Unless you spent a lifetime on a body of water like that, you cannot predict every one of those rivers. You can't do it. First of all, there's no tide to speak of. So it's all wind driven. But
how is that possible? It doesn't have a tide.
There's nuances in the bends of those rivers. And also how far away from here the wind effect here is different than the wind effect there. I'm sure there was rivers that in the very backs of them, in the calmest portion of them, there was no freaking water.
Right.
And, you know,
Yeah, the wind blew it out.
it's so hard to know that.
How could that not have a tide being right next to the ocean like that? That's weird.
There's a barrier island between it and the ocean.
Well, you can't get to the ocean from there?
Not from there.
Uh,
You got to cover some turf.
Nice. So anyway,
Unless you
we'll watch it
good
tomorrow.
head.
We'll see what happens tomorrow, what
Yeah,
the wind.
and
well, it's
forecast.
a power fisherman's dream.
Yeah.
It is pretty
How can
cool.
you not love watching it?
Mhm.
Lee Livesey said, you know, this is the greatest place ever. It fits right in my thing.
Frogging,
Yeah.
flipping,
He was like, this fits
Cranking.
right into what I like to do.
bladed jig.
He said,
I mean, what else do you want out of life?
I think Livesey's like mid-pack with like 10 pounds or something. He's like, I don't know, man. He said,
I didn't see anybody throwing a spinnerbait.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to
Maybe
get
tomorrow.
that. Maybe it's time to get that hog collar out.
all right. You got anything else, Nick?
In a couple minutes, in a couple seconds, I will.
You will?
Yeah, we're gonna close it up.
All right. Close her down, Nick. This is Mike and George Acord, and we're going to sign off on another great edition of Tackle Shop Live. And cameraman Nick.
I met you on a sunny day. Right there, you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day, you called me up. You told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down or when I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Hopeless lover. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you. A long blonde hair and your beautiful smile. Your sense of humor makes it all worthwhile. Don't make me wait, it's not a funny game. You know just what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down or when I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Hopeless lover, a hopeless